Welcome back, everybody. Today I'm going to be building this Cherokee warbow from scratch. The Cherokee were expert hunters and warriors, and the bow was one of their primary weapons for centuries. These bows were not just tools, they were a lifeline for putting food on the table and defending their communities. They were designed for both hunting deer and for use in battle. Cherokee bows were usually made from hardwoods like hickory, black locust, or even Osage orange when available. What I have available is sweet gum, so that's what we'll be using. The typical Cherokee bow was about as tall as the Archer, sometimes shorter, and it had a flat or slightly rounded belly. These bows were powerful but practical, easy to make with hand tools, and deadly accurate in the right hands. Bows were also tied to manhood and skill. A young Cherokee boy would learn to make and shoot bows as part of growing up. Even today, many Cherokee people are working to keep these traditional skills alive, making bows the same way their ancestors did. As you can see, I'm using modern tools for this. Using stone tools takes an immense amount of skill, and one day I hope to achieve that. Once you have felled your tree, it's still green. It would normally need to sit for years or until be able to lose enough moisture to be used as a bow. You can cut down on this time by taking the bark off and splitting it. What you see me pointing to here is the outer growth ring of this bow. What I'm pointing to now is the inner bark, and then obviously you have the outer bark. You have to be sure that you're only taking off the inner bark and the outer bark, not to nick that outer ring on the outside of the stave. Doing so will violate the outer growth ring, and your bow will eventually break. On most whitewoods like hickory or elm, you could just peel this off in long layers, but on sweet gum, for some reason it doesn't do that, and you have to chip away at it with a draw knife or something. If I didn't have a draw knife, I would just take a piece of wood like this, shove it between the bark and the outer ring, and just push it off. And there's the bark gone. Traditionally, I would just use wedges or 2 axes and a hammer for something like this, but hey, I bought this new bandsaw, might as well use it. If you want to see me split out staves the traditional way, I've got plenty of videos on my channel doing that. So now that it's split and the bark removed, it would still take months for it to dry out, but we're going to force dry this by using fire. Don't worry, this grass got mowed soon after. This is my wife-proof / HOA-proof way of fire hardening bows. If you want to see how I do this in detail, I have a video on my channel. But most of the time, just dig a pit, make a fire, and spread your coals out. Not quite the color I want. I would have preferred a little bit of a deeper burn. This is the #1 problem with sweet gum. Its interlocking grain just makes it split when you try to use cutting tools on it. So I'm going to use a belt sander. I'm going to use a heat gun to try to cook some more moisture out of it, since I wasn't too happy with the fire hardening process. one run to Harbor Freight later. Normally I'd cook the belly black with the heat gun, but this new heat gun just doesn't have quite as much watts as my last one. Got this thing bending enough for some nocks. The Cherokee used diamond-shaped nocks, so that's what I'm going to do on this bow. This is what we call the floor tiller stage. It's bending nice on the floor. We got the string grooves in, so it's time to put a string on it. But first, I'm going to give it some slight reflex, which was found in some examples of Cherokee bows. Tillering's pretty simple. You're just removing wood from where it needs to be removed to make the bow bend more in that area. Doing some handle shaping here. You want to see an easy way to make strings? Check out my channel. I just posted a video not long ago. As you can see, this is the stronger limb and it's stiff in the outer thirds. I usually floor tiller until I can get it on a full brace, and then I usually start tillering this way. I take a marker and I move it up and down the limb and look for the gap between the marker and the limb. Once I see that gap is opened up, I make a mark on either side of that opening, and then I remove wood in between on the stiff spots. Here's a better demonstration of what I'm talking about. As you can see here, there's an opening right there, so make a mark on either side and then put markings on each side of it. Keep going. There's another opening, do the same thing there. It's getting there. Right now it's at about a 26-inch draw. After some fine wood removal, we got everything tillered out. And overall, it didn't take much set. Set is how much the bow stays bent after it's been unstrung. And there you can see the bow stays straight. Now it's time for my maker's mark. Traditionally, something like bear fat or deer fat, something mixed with a little bit of pine pitch, would be used to seal these bows. I'm just going to use some true oil gunstock finish. Now I'm going to use a long piece of leather for the handle wrap. I just use a dab of super glue. If you wanted to be super traditional, you could just use hide glue. Visually, you can't tell the difference. Now she's done. Time to let it dry, string her up, shoot her. It's got a 55-pound draw at 28 inches. That's more than enough to kill anything in North America. And you could pull it to about 30 inches and get about a 61-pound draw if you really wanted to. Thanks for hanging out with me while I built this bow and shared a little bit of its history. If you like this video, be sure to hit like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments what you want to see next. See you in the next one.